tonight we will be covering the Republican, the Democrat, and the Green Party debate tonight. Candidates, you could go ahead and shake your hands, and later after that, give a slight introduction with yourselves. We actually, folks, we actually haven't seen any of this in the debate, so it seems that the parties are coming together, which is actually a great movement of progression. So this is good. We don't want our civilians and our political parties to be divided. So, gentlemen, if you would please all sit down and take your podium seats.
Okay.
Isaiah, that's not exactly allowed here. I'm sorry for that, Elfie. I expect that many of our audiences do know who every single one of you are tonight, but we do actually have a new person. Mr. Elfie, would you like to give a small introduction on yourself?
Oh. That
Okay.
touched my heart.
Actually, me and Elfie is actually a new candidate that has just joined the race. He has had no political positions at all, but as always, like we've been sticking to the theme of this entire election, it's a good chance to learn and such. So, gentlemen, the first topic that we'll actually be diving into today is education. How are we going to teach our citizens how to be civilized and both productive? Would anybody like to... Hang a minute. Would anybody like to start first? Alright, Mr. Fade, how about you start first? And actually, this is Democratic candidate Fade for the Democratic Party has not spoken at all to see what he has to say. So, Mr.
Okay, so I have many views on the education system. A lot of people would like new members of the regime to go straight into school, but that would not make us any money. So what I would like to do is, instead of putting them straight into school, we put them straight to work so they can gain money, and then as soon as they want to advance their education, they will pay, and we can put them through school.
Yes. We actually, will you be meeting up with the Board of Education, after the elections have taken place to formulate some basic standardized education?
Yes, I will. I will be having a meeting with them directly after if I do win, and we will hopefully get this through.
Candidates also, since we have a extended amount of people this time, we're actually going to keep each response to 2 minutes. We're actually going to only keep each speech for about 2 minutes. So, Mr. Fresh, you may begin on your conversation now. Mr. Fresh.
Oh, sorry.
What the fuck?
So, with school and everything, like about the Board of Education, well, part of what I want in my cabinet, I'm not sure about these people, but I want a Secretary of Education so that they and I can go to the Board of Education and work things out. I am with Fade on the fact that we need, like, to make profit off this, because we got people putting hard work in their books that they wrote, you know, for students to have and learn and everything else. You know, they're putting time in the classes and everything else. You know, kind of, you know, the teachers and everything, they kind of need to get paid, you know?
Is that it? You still have 1 minute left.
Was there any part of the question that I didn't, like, answer? That's what I'm asking.
That's up for the people to decide, not me. Okay. Moving on to Mr. JC, Republican candidate. What do you have to say about education, and how are you going to implement it to where it will help our people thrive? Time begins now.
I believe any new regime member that comes into this world should have a paid class They teach them how to be civilized and mature for 1 week, and once they get enough money, they can then pay off that money, in which how much it costs to put them in that class. To teach them how to be civilized.
Wait, will the money be provided from the government or themselves? Because people joining into the world don't have any money, and they need to find jobs.
The government will pay for it the first time when they get into the class, but when they get enough money to pay for it, they will be asked to pay for the class.
Okay. Is that it, Mr. JC?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Isaiah, what do you have to say about education?
The regime.
Interesting. So kind of... Oh, sorry.
Backstabber.
So you're so I don't know how much. We have a little bit more time here. So you're proposing somewhat of a letter of recommendation type-esque system that will then lead to their education grantings. Interesting. Is that all you have to say? You have 30 more seconds. Alright, thank you. Mr. Eagle, what do you have to say about education, my friend?
Well, what I have to say about education is once the person actually gets involved or actually joins the regime itself, obviously what I have plans is to have them have some sort of education as a base to start off with, like basically history about the regime, the whole world in general, and then after that, we put them to work. Once they get into work, they could then use the money that they earned from that job that they had, and then they could decide where they want to go from there. Where, let's say they want to become a firefighter, then they would go through the law school to become that, and then after that they'll be hired on the spot because of the education that they've been taught.
Mr. Eagle, will this education be paid for or will it be free?
Education as of the beginning, it will be given, but at the end, they have to pay for it afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eagle. Mr. Concrete, you may speak.
Okay, so obviously education is very important and time consuming, which is why I feel as though it'd be a good idea to, depending on what's going on in the regime, like for example, let's just say a big starship's being constructed, then people would not be able to go to work in order to get the project done, obviously as fast as possible and get paid, right? But if obviously like right now we're in the down season and well, not like the down season, but like we're not as active as we are in the summer. So like during this season, people would go to work, to school and stuff, and then in the summer they'd work, so then they could pay for their
Interesting.
education.
So kind of like a seasonal kind of work system.
Exactly, or depending on a project.
Thank you. We've actually never seen that from any of the parties before. Thank you, Mr. Elfie. Very new to the server, but with exciting ideas, of course, from outside activity. What do you have to say about education, sir? Oh, uh, um, okay. May I ask a question? I actually have two. So education will be free. So how are you gonna pay for it? But like the teachers and such. Depending on what. So like, will like the taxes like will you tax people that wanna? We like how are you gonna pay for those teachers that want the payment? Okay, and then also you said a 2-year educational plan. Is that correct? That's an Mr. Elfie. The world hasn't been up for 2 years. Isn't that a little arduous of an educational plan? I could complete 1 year, a 1-year educational plan. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all of your guys' answers. Now moving on to the next subject, which is actually this is actually a very interesting one. So, Redstone Lag Conservation Plan. Recently, lag spikes have been coming more and more and more abundant, and there is extreme badness from them, but there's also some good. Like we saw a little day ago, some person was putting lava down on the tower, and it made such tremendous lag spikes that people already adept to the world knew. Oh, when there's massive lag spikes, there's either lava coming down from the extreme distance or water, which means we're able to shut down the world quickly to stop it. How are we going to deal with these lag spikes, and are we going to keep them for national security? Because they actually are, in a sense, a systemized security system. Mr. Eagle, let's start with you first.
Well, when it comes to the redstone being an issue, obviously it has to be on a limited usage, because you can't just have an abundance all over the city, which we do, which we have it for electricity. But the thing is, when it comes to things like that, people can use redstone as a weapon to lag out the world itself.
Super weapon.
And that's the thing. Yes, a super weapon. And once they create that super weapon, we lose major progress when it comes to it. So obviously we have
May
to
I say
limit.
something real fast? This is actually a very
Yes.
justified statement. The company LBK Industries has actually founded 6 out of the 7 super weapon redstone devices. Well, actually, not even super weapons, just super weapons in general. Mr. Warlord, or not Mr. Warlord Harry Toad has actually been one of the inventors of a sonic super redstone weapon as well. So this is an extremely valid statement. Continue, please, Eagle.
But I see under redstone being a major importance when it comes to electricity, and I understand that. But the thing is, it has to be on a limited, it has to be on the low, or it has to be limited in order for less lag, so that way we can continue our progression at a rapid speed, rather than you have someone creating a super weapon and no one knows about it, and then as soon as they turn it on, we lose a lot of progress, and we have to go back from square one.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle. Mr. Isaiah, Green Partyist, you would probably, hopefully, be the most experienced and knowledge on this, since Green Party is all about nature, conservation, environmental systems, and science. What do you propose to deal with this redstone lag? And if not, are you going to keep it for Are you going to keep it for security measures in some use? Go ahead. Mr. Isaiah, I think you're confusing this for. I think you're kind of blending your answer for terrorism patrols. How are you going to deal with redstone? Yes, sir.
Correct.
All right. Mhm. Thank you, Mr. Isaiah. Fade, I'd actually like to get your opinion on this. How will you handle with redstone? You may begin now.
Okay, so obviously redstone is a big part of our city because it powers uh, just about, I would say, 95% of our lights and our housing units. So Isaiah had a point where he made that he wants to disconnect bigger buildings,
Mhm.
which, in my opinion, will not work
Oh.
because it is made for electricity, and if we disconnect bigger buildings, how will the bigger buildings get electricity? So I just wanted to touch on that really quick, but obviously we're using a lot of redstone under our roads to power lights and things like that. I think we need to disconnect sections of the road that are not housed by anything or there's no
Mm.
structures around. We need to just disconnect that part of the road until housing units get built or any structures come along that need electricity. And obviously we need people to go around, maybe law enforcement, to check on people regularly to see if they are making such super weapons as Eagle touched on earlier. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fade. Very well put. Mr. Knight, what do you have to say?
Alright, well, I agree with Fade on people going around and checking, make sure people aren't building super weapons out of redstone. But I'm also with Fade on the fact I disagree with Isaiah from disconnecting it from buildings. I don't think that'd be a very good idea. So what my suggestion is, instead of connecting more homes and everything to a redstone system, we convert the daylight sensors. And the reason why I say that is with daylight sensors, we don't have to have it connecting the redstone or anything else. You can have it like that. And I've also thought about maybe a solar plant somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I live in real life, we have like literally we have this one really 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 flat area, and it's like desert like practically, and it's literally like this gigantic solar plant. So maybe start going with solar power
You have 1 minute.
instead of okay
That's something I'd be
instead
interested.
of using like power plants and everything else connecting redstone and everything, we convert to solar power.
Very well put. Innovative idea. Mr. JC.
Similar to what he said with the solar panels, but preferably on rooftops to make sure we don't have to connect as many houses as we need. And if we to prevent lag spikes, I think we should have sections of redstone to where we can cut them off if it starts to lag. And open up new methods of lighting like torches, sea lanterns, and glowstone to decrease some of that lag and conflict between the redstone.
Mr. JC, not allowing those. So you're for legalization of torches, sea lanterns, and such.
Yeah.
So that would basically completely eliminate the housing tax for the world. How would we be able to sustain taxes?
Depending on what lighting they have, like let's say a house is lit up by sea lanterns, depending on the material they use to light up their house, sea lanterns will be taxed. Everyone who uses the sea lanterns, whatever, how many sea lanterns they have or whatever, they will be taxed on how many or what lighting they use. So sea lanterns will be maybe taxed half a stack, while glowstones maybe 4 stars is less than sea lanterns. On how much it'll depend on how much it lights up. Different lighting will cost different taxations.
Isaiah, go back to your seat. Jesus Christ. There's a debate.
And with big buildings, I discourage connecting them.
Isaiah,
I
can you
think
please
we
sit down?
should have different sections or a different plant connected to all the bigger buildings. So if we ever get a lag spike, we can either cut off power
Isaiah,
to
can
the
you stop
houses
talking?
or the big buildings in the city.
Very well stated. Thank you. Who is? Mr. Elfie, have you spoken on this subject yet?
Oh my god.
No. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Elfie. And then you, Concrete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is that it? Very well stated, Mr. Elfie. And of course, Republican candidate, Mr. Concrete. You may proceed.
So obviously redstone is very important to the LBK regime. It pushes us, really, it really challenges us to find new ways to, make things easier. Which is, why we have the tax and everything, which is obviously for the realism. But I liked JC's idea, how he said to have solar panels on the rooftops of each house. And a way to earn profits from that for the government would be to pay a certain amount of money per like light source. So for example, like one like sea lantern would be, you know, like 1 star like per month or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Is that it,
Yeah.
Mr. Concrete?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I got everybody correct.
Yep.
Sure.
Alright, thank you. Our next subject is going to be socialness, among others. Allowing citizens to come together, create unity instead of division. This is probably one of the most divisive states that we have ever seen the LBK regime in. People are arguing, people are swearing, people are ripping each other apart, and they're just ripping each other apart limb by limb, criticizing each other. How are we going to bring the citizens together to where it produces a more healthy, a more user-friendly, and a non-segregationist society? Even by race, language, age, and even voice texture. Mr. Eagle, I'd actually like to start with you first.
Well, this is a topic that I actually find pretty interesting myself, considering the whole police supremacy system. Obviously, when it comes to people saying this, saying that, obviously what I think about correcting their actions is by having disciplinary actions.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they slip up with something, or they actually mean it, like let's say for example, if I was to tell JC go kill yourself,
I tried.
they could tell I would be punished by either jail time or possible suspension for a certain amount of time.
From the world, or
And
from
it's
like, I'm sorry, from the world, or from like non-prioritization of a citizen, or what do you? I'm sorry, can we just be specific here?
could be suspension from the world, but it's not going to be anything extreme. For example, like let's say someone's just going repeatedly and repeatedly, that is when something like there could be just a kick if they do not listen at all, even through disciplinary action. That's when a kick might be an issue.
Mm-hmm. Is this it, Mr. Eagle?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fresh, I'd actually like you to proceed on your answer.
So, yesterday, and I'm going to bring up with this, as I already said earlier, in the debate that we had today, was I was, I was kind of, not acting the way I should have. I apologize again. I already said that I got punished for what I did, and now I'm back.
Mm-hmm. Is that it? Mr. Fresh, are you there?
To speak.
Okay. We have two people. Okay, that was a little. Okay, Mr. JC, could you please proceed with your answer?
I believe that we should offer suspensions from, let's say they have a thing, like a class in college, let's say they're being mean to someone like Isaiah, which we all know is normal.
Mm-hmm.
We would suspend them from the college and making money until they can learn to be respectful to the person they are hating on. And if they continue, we should offer a suspension either from the world or from the chat, or even both if it gets worse, or maybe even jail time.
Mm-hmm. Is that it, Mr. JC?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Current Vice President and Democratic candidate, Little Nasty, could you please answer this?
Okay, so verbal harassment and things like this are a very sensitive topic because currently we are suffering from this. It has happened today, actually. So I do believe that we need to take disciplinary actions for people that constantly are trying to hurt others. I do not think that we should discipline people when it's obviously like friendly banter. But if you are constantly harassing someone and we tell you to stop multiple times, then we should take action such as, like Eagle said, suspension from the world or possible jail time. Because a lot of our members are dropping out of things and segregating from others because we are getting harassed by others and being made fun of and bullied in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think we need to just take disciplinary actions against those that do bully, and that's all I have to say.
Yes, exactly. We do need to stop bullying. Very well stated, Mr. Little Nasty. Mr. Concrete, could you please?
Obviously, what Fade said. This is a very, very touchy subject about. Yeah, a very touchy subject. So what I'm proposing is a three-strike system. And then to give the punishment or to lay down the law or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, because it really depends on obviously what they're saying or doing, or how much effect what they said has on the other person. which would obviously depend on the punishment they have after they get those 3 strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Concrete. Mr. Elvey, could you please? Mr. Elfie, what will the punishment be excusable if their buddy is like, oh hey, he was just messing around, he wasn't really meaning that, but really maybe he just doesn't want to get like, claimed as like a snitch? Because if that is gonna happen, then it's gonna set an example to all those other people witnessing that and say, oh hey, this is how you avoid the system. Like, how are you gonna base judgment? Like, how are you gonna base delivering the punishment? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, who's gonna choose? Like, how will you decide whether the punishment is gonna be given out or not? Like, what if he just says he was just kidding? I see. Is that it, Mr. Elfie? Thank you very much. Right now we are at the basically the 33-minute mark, and well, we've actually gone through all of our subjects. So let's do something new. Open discussion time. Who wants to bring up a certain subject that we haven't yet covered with all 3 debates? Mr. JC?
I'm worried about business promotion, how easy or hard it is to start up your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And it has come to my attention that not a lot of people are making a lot of money, so it is not a business makes a good opportunity for them to earn money. So I have this thing where if they have a company and they want to build a skyscraper or whatever they wish to house their company within, they just have to buy the plot of land. They don't have to pay a whole lot of money. And whatever they make, whatever profit, a portion of it will go to the government to help out with funding for other things, such as the university.
Okay. Currently, the way Mr. LBK has it set up is if you purchase a level from his floor, the company makes 75% of their incomes, and then the government makes 25% of their incomes if they are based in the LBK towers, like companies like HGI, unfortunately. So, but you're saying no matter what, no matter where they are, they're going to be paying a reduced business startup tax, but then nevertheless, some of their income will be going to the government?
Yes, and also it depends on how big the company is. Like, companies that are really big will end up paying a better, bigger percentage towards the government, while
Right,
smaller companies
because they're
pay
making more.
smaller percentages to make equal amount of money, which will just kind of make it easier for people to get money.
Very interesting. I like that. Would anybody else, we're not going to actually force people to answer this, would anybody else like to review or speak upon this matter?
Yes, I would like to touch on this subject. So, I do disagree with JC on this topic. I think that we should not take part of their income. We should just make it harder to own businesses, because what is happening right now is a lot of people are making big businesses or even garage businesses, but they are not making any money off of them. They're just buying them just to have a business. So I think that we should make it harder to actually own a business, and you have to pay more than what we have now. because if we do this, that would eliminate a lot of the smaller businesses, and it will create things like monopolies if people are running their businesses right. So a
Yes.
lot of our members that are very good in business will make more money.
Very well. That is actually a very important matter. Mr. JC and Mr. Fade, I actually had a question. So, Mr. JC, you're proposing a let's see here. You're proposing less taxes, but some of the government, some of their profits to go to the business. And then Fade, you're saying that we need to make taxation higher for business startups, but then they won't be affected by, like, sums of their profits being given to the government. What about for pre-existing companies like Kilo Corp or Fresh Q's or even LBK Industries, one of the largest technological companies out there? Like, how are they going to be affected by your guys' presidency?
Okay.
Well,
Mr. Do you guys could have an open conversation with yourselves?
Okay. Well, I think that we should have a higher startup tax, obviously, and have continuous taxation of these businesses. And it depends on how big your business is, as how big your tax will be.
Crap.
you're done.
Could I take out a loan?
LBK, get going.
I feel like people could know why I'm saying that. That was funny. Okay. Mr. JC.
So,
Oh, are you done, Mr. Fade?
no.
Okay.
Obviously this will affect bigger businesses, and this will make it harder for businesses to continuously grow. And a lot of people have been complaining that our world has been getting boring because they have been making a lot of money easily, and we need to eliminate this factor. So, I think that we should tax bigger businesses, and this will maybe create new smaller businesses for just local people to own. And obviously, it will be harder, but if you are good at business, like I said earlier, you will succeed.
Thank you, Mr. Fade. Mr. Fade, I actually have a personal question for you. Are you familiar with small businesses run our country?
Yes.
Would you probably say right now at this moment large businesses run our country?
Yes, I would agree with that statement.
Thank you, Mr. Fade. Concrete, I think you have something to say, but I'm actually going to go to JC real fast. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Similar to what he said, but with the taxation, let's say LBK Industries is opening up a new facility in New Sovia. The money generated from that facility, the taxation off that facility will go into how I'm helping out New Sovia with like financial stuff. Whatever country it's in, it will go to our little reserve pool for other countries, and that money from that facility will go towards that country.
So, if they make money in foreign countries like New Soviet and on the LBK regime, instead of it going to the LBK regime government, it's going...
Some of it will, and more percentage of that money will go towards the country it is in, but some of it will go towards the regime to make sure like we can still afford to like build other things or like just kind of do stuff in general. So yeah.
I was thinking of
No,
something.
wait, I wanted to. Sorry, Eagle, I was next.
Oh, okay. You can go, sir.
Excuse me for that
just-
interruption. I'm sorry. I didn't hear much of your response. I'm sorry for the audiences that have to hear that again, but you could just summarize it. So, companies that make money in foreign countries, rather than it going to the domestically held LBK regime government, is it going to go to, like, I think what you said, a foreign pool of funding to help those countries out? Is that correct? Is that what you just said?
Yes, but a little bit will go towards the regime to help out. Like some of it, like the larger amount, like the larger half, will go towards the foreign countries in which it is located, while the rest goes to regime to still generate profits off
Okay.
that company.
Okay, and then Mr. Concrete, Mr. Concrete and Eagle Eye had also heard you guys talking, but I
Yeah.
promise Concrete, yeah.
Yeah. I just had one question for Fade. Fade, you said that you would that if you know how to run a business, you would be successful. So would you be willing to provide like education about businesses in order for companies to be successful?
Yes, I would plan on creating a class to introduce people to business ways and how to own a business and things like this. So, yes, I would create a class to help people run their businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is that it? Anybody else
Yeah.
want to speak on yeah,
Oh,
Concrete?
Eagle wanted.
Oh,
Eagle
Eagle,
wanted to.
yes.
When it comes to businesses, what I have in plan is, since I am a commissioner of the police department, what I can think about is setting up a division specifically for businesses. When it comes to people establishing a business, obviously they're gonna have to go through the process in order to make a business. Obviously, there's going to be things where they have to check criminal history, how much time have they spent on the world, how much progression they have made, and obviously, once they are granted, they will then be given a small amount of land so that way they can establish their business upon the approval of the police department.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the government will not take any money. I see this as a principle from the French Revolution, if I get my history correct, a laissez-faire, which would be hands off. The money, the government will not take any money from small businesses, and we would have the small businesses actually grow.
Mm.
But when it comes to big businesses on how they're bringing in money, the government will take a small percentage of it when it comes to public works and this and that. It's not just that we're being biased and letting small businesses grow and that big businesses, we want to keep them at their level because we do not, like Fade would say, we do not want to create monopolies taking over.
Mm-hmm.
But with the rise of large companies, there's going to be a lot of money coming in for the economy, coming in for education,
Yes.
coming in just for the general aspects of the regime itself.
I see. Is this it with everybody?
Yeah.
I believe that's
Mr. LBK, what I would like to bring up a new topic.
Oh.
Okay. What would
Okay.
that topic be?
So, helping other countries.
Mm.
Okay. So, earlier, JC said that he was going to put reserves for other foreign countries to help them out. I have a saying that it's, and a lot of other people say this, is help others that help themselves. So, New Solvia is currently building itself up. So, we help them because they are helping themselves, as many would say. A lot of people are creating smaller countries and branching off from the regime, and a lot of them do not make it because they, as I would say, they don't help themselves. So I don't think that we need to ally with these countries if they cannot afford to get members into their cities. and I think that we should kind of just separate from them and only help them if they become on the rise and help us, and then we will be able to help them back. So I do not think that we should put up reserve
Sorry.
like money for other countries besides maybe New Serbia.
Mr. Fade, would you say that disbanding from the United Nations would also be included in that package?
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Would you say disbanding from the United Nations would also be included in that policy/plan?
No, because I'm just saying that we should not constantly pour our money into other cities. I think they should still be a part of the United Nations so we can hear their views and opinions on many of the things that we bring up in the United Nations. So I think that we should still allow them to be a part of that.
Interesting. That was actually
I
very.
would like to touch up on Fate's subject.
Yes. Yes, good.
What I see that I like about it is that you don't really want to align with a small country that literally like just started. You want to align with someone that could support itself. And then after that, obviously have meetings in the UN talking about big projects, continuing with trade routes and such. But when it comes to starting countries, obviously they'll be looked at, but we're not going to be spending anything. Once they rise up and once they get people into their cities, that is when we could start considering, should we reach out, give some aid, or should we just stay back and then wait a little longer?
I see.
That is all.
Thank you. Would any other of the candidates from the Green Party or Republican Party or Democratic Party would like to speak? Yes, Mr. Isaiah? You've been quite silent throughout the... It's completely fine. Mr. Isaiah, I think you're a little confused here. We're not talking about LBK regime expansion. We're talking about whether or not to support other countries who can't support themselves. I don't see how destroying the wall and expanding a bridge over to them, or I don't know where, will really coherence with this discussion. Okay. Would that be it, Mr. Isaiah? Thank you. Would anybody else have anything to say about this matter? Okay. Okay, well then, I think now is about to. I think that's gonna be a wrap for the debate. We are on our 15-minute marker, so if you guys would all get up and please shake hands, and thank you. And that is basically a wrap with the third presidential debate. We are not sure if we are going to have any more. If we most likely will, but if not, we will definitely yeah. So we could always I feel that this debate especially was very unifying. We got some extremely good questions, not very generic questions. Oh, thank you, Mr. Isaiah. Great debate tonight, sir. We actually got some very, very good questions from the moderator tonight about what kind of questions: education, redstone lag, conservation, which actually had not been touched on at all in like months. So that was very, very, very important. And also, I think we got some extremely good work done with the citizenships and like how people treat each other. We got some concrete quotes about from the some about some of the businesses about JC's was especially like JC's business. Oh yes, thank you, Mr. Fade. We got some very good quotes about, or not quotes, but concrete details about Mr. JC and Mr. Fade's economic business handlement approach. Them both being a part of the Democratic slash Republican Party. JC was actually proposing that we have a lowered taxation, but then the percentage of their sums will be directed to the government, and then as well as the business statement about it being a foreign business and some of the sums going to the International Pool Fund, which I'm not sure. I just made up that name. So that's very interesting, as well as and yes, sorry, got it. So. And then we also got Fade's extreme strict and probably a little bit radicalized views on business handlement as well as startups. This is and taxation especially. It's actually a lot of business owners are probably going to become quite frightened from the upcoming taxation. Hopefully he does in upcoming rallies release those taxes and see how much it's actually going to cost for these taxes, so businesses like LBK Industries especially and Kilo Corp can prepare if he is elected president. But it was actually very interesting seeing how Concrete's view on the 3-point strike system for citizenships or citizenized people and how they behave. Like we said, like the moderator said earlier, right now these are extremely divisive times in the LBK regime, and they're actually quite saddening seeing the way people treat each other and systems being offered by Concrete and Elfie and such. It's going to be very interesting, and I feel that was a very, very, very strong point from all two political parties, both Democrat and Republican. But as usual, this is LBK News, bringing you the most prominent of the news, and we thank you for watching. Have a great night, folks.